Ethan sat stiffly at the restaurant table, his hands folded tightly in his lap. The warm, golden lights flickered against polished glasses, the clinking of cutlery and the murmur of conversation surrounding him. Across from him sat Claire, his wife of 5 years, and beside her, Daniel, her best friend since college. Ethan had heard of Daniel often, but had met him only a handful of times. Daniel was charming, quick with words, and always seemed to have a story that made people laugh. Yet beneath the surface, Ethan sensed something else, an air of superiority that always seemed to hover around him. That evening, Daniel had been unusually bold. He smirked, raised his glass, and said in a playful yet cutting tone, "Claire, you could have done so much better. I mean, really, Ethan's nice, but look at you. You're stunning, brilliant. You deserved someone at your level." The table fell silent. Claire's smile froze, half embarrassed, half uncertain. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he didn't snap back immediately. Instead, he leaned forward, his eyes sharp but voice calm. "You're entitled to your opinion, Daniel," Ethan said evenly. "But whether you think I'm good enough for my wife doesn't matter. She chose me, and I choose her every day. That's what love is, not about measuring worth, but about commitment and respect." Daniel chuckled mockingly. "Come on, man, don't take it so seriously. I was joking." But Ethan's steady gaze didn't waver. The air grew heavier. For the first time, Daniel shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Claire, however, turned sharply toward Ethan. "You could at least apologize," she snapped. "Daniel was only teasing. You're making it awkward." Ethan blinked. Apologize? To the man who just belittled him in front of his wife? He looked at her, and in that moment, something inside him shifted. "No," he said softly, "I won't." Claire's face flushed with anger. "Then maybe you need to think about what this means for us." Ethan smiled faintly, but said nothing more. The rest of the dinner passed in silence, tension hanging like smoke over the table. Weeks rolled by, each one colder than the last. Claire grew distant, often spending her evenings out with friends. Ethan stopped asking where she was going. The warmth that once filled their home drained away, leaving only silence. Then, one evening, Claire walked in with her suitcase. She looked exhausted, her face pale and her eyes uncertain. Ethan sat at the dining table, sorting through some papers. "I need to talk," she whispered. Ethan didn't look up immediately. When he did, his eyes were calm, almost detached. "Go ahead." Claire's throat tightened. "I thought I wanted space. I thought you were being prideful that night. But after some time, I realized I was wrong. Daniel laughed about you behind your back when I saw him again. He mocked your job, your quiet ways. And then I realized you didn't humiliate him that night. You just showed strength. I let my pride blind me." Ethan said nothing. He simply waited. Tears welled in her eyes. "I'm sorry. I thought loyalty meant defending my friend, but I forgot what it meant to defend my husband. Can we fix this?" Ethan leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. For a long time, he simply studied her. Finally, he spoke. "Claire, marriage is a choice we both make every day. That night, I chose us. You chose him. And after, you kept choosing pride over partnership. Do you understand what that did to us?" She nodded, ashamed. Ethan's tone was steady but firm. Respect is not optional in love. Without it, there's no trust. Without trust, there's nothing left to build on. The silence between them stretched long and heavy. Claire bit her lip, waiting for him to say more. Finally, Ethan rose from his chair and walked toward the window, gazing out at the quiet night. "Claire," he said softly, "I'm not angry anymore. I'm done. And sometimes being done isn't about punishment, it's about peace." Her tears spilled freely now. "So that's it?" He turned to her, his expression sad but resolute. That's it. Claire moved out the following week. Ethan didn't gloat, didn't speak ill of her to others. He simply carried on with his life, rebuilding quietly, one day at a time. Months later, Claire would look back on that dinner, on that careless demand for an apology, and realized it had been the turning point. She had failed to see that marriage wasn't about winning arguments or defending outsiders. It was about protecting the bond you shared, even in awkward moments. Ethan, on the other hand, learned something too. He realized that silence could be powerful. Not the silence of weakness, but the silence of strength. He hadn't needed to argue with Daniel or beg for Claire's support. His dignity spoke louder than words ever could. Respect is the foundation of every relationship. Love without respect will eventually collapse, no matter how strong the attraction or how deep the history. When faced with disrespect, sometimes the strongest response isn't anger or retaliation. It's quiet dignity, choosing peace over chaos. And sometimes walking away is the clearest way to show what self-worth truly means.